They weren't just side dishes. They were the quiet companions to Sunday roasts, the unsung heroes of potluck tables, the flavors tucked between the main course and dessert that somehow made the whole meal feel complete. These dishes didn't come from TikTok trends or celebrity chefs. They came from spiral-bound cookbooks with yellowing pages, from recipe cards tucked in drawers, from grandmothers who measured with their hands and cooked with their hearts. Today, we're remembering 10 forgotten side dishes you could only find in old cookbooks. Some are strange, some are comforting. All of them are stories of survival, celebration, and the flavors that once filled American kitchens. So pull up a chair. We're serving nostalgia. Number 1, barbecued pork kidney, the organ meats of old America. Before boneless cuts and shrink-wrapped convenience, Americans cooked every part of the animal, and pork kidney, barbecued, marinated, and grilled, was once a prized side dish in rural kitchens. It wasn't just about thrift, it was about flavor. Kidneys were soaked in vinegar or milk to mellow their intensity, then skewered and basted with tangy barbecue sauce. Served alongside baked beans or cornbread, they added a smoky, savory punch that made the meal feel complete. In old cookbooks, you'll find recipes that treat kidneys with care, not as scraps, but as delicacies. They were sliced thin, grilled over open flame, and served with pride. Today, most people wouldn't recognize them on a plate. But for Depressionera, families and farm cooks, barbecued pork kidney was a reminder that nothing went to waste, and everything could be made delicious. Number 2, Raisin Bran with warm milk and butter. The breakfast side that felt like dessert. It wasn't just cereal, it was comfort. Raisin Bran, warmed gently with milk and a pat of butter, was served not just as breakfast, but as a side dish at supper, especially in homes where sweet things were rare. The butter melted into the milk, creating a creamy base that softened the flakes and plumped the raisins. It was warm, it was sweet, and it was deeply nostalgic. Grandmothers served it in small bowls alongside meatloaf or baked ham. Children ate it slowly, savoring the richness, and in old cookbooks, it was listed under accompaniments, a reminder that cereal wasn't just for mornings. Today, we rush through breakfast, but back then, Raisin Bran with warm milk and butter was a moment of pause, a dish that wrapped you in warmth and reminded you that even simple things could feel special. Number 3, salmon and canned pea toasts. The pantry's best-kept secret. It started with a can, salmon pink and flaky, peas soft and sweet, toast golden and crisp. Together, they made a side dish that was humble, hearty, and surprisingly elegant. Old cookbooks called for mixing canned salmon with a bit of mayo or mustard, spreading it on toast, and topping it with warm peas. Sometimes there was a sprinkle of paprika, sometimes a slice of hard-boiled egg. It was served at luncheons, church socials, and quiet dinners. And it was proof that canned goods could be transformed into something memorable. Today, we overlook canned peas, but in kitchens of the past, they were a staple. And when paired with salmon and toast, they became a dish that felt both frugal and fancy. Number 4, egg drop soup, the broth that bridged cultures. It wasn't just Chinese restaurants. Egg drop soup appeared in American cookbooks as early as the 1930s, adapted, simplified, and served as a side dish to everything from roast chicken to pork chops. It was made with chicken broth, gently heated. Eggs were whisked and poured in slowly, forming silky ribbons. Sometimes there was cornstarch, sometimes green onions, sometimes just salt and pepper. It was light, it was nourishing, and it was a way for immigrant families to bring their traditions to American tables. In old cookbooks, it's listed under clear soups, a category that's all but vanished today. But for families who knew how to stretch a chicken carcass into broth and an egg into elegance, egg drop soup was a side dish that carried both flavor and heritage. Number 5, tomato aspic with celery and olives, the gelatin era's crown jewel. It wobbled, it glistened, it confused children and delighted adults. Tomato aspic, a savory gelatin made from tomato juice, seasoned with vinegar and spices, and studded with celery and olives, was once the centerpiece of every respectable dinner party. It was served cold, sliced into squares and plated with lettuce. Sometimes there was a dollop of mayo, sometimes a sprinkle of salt. In old cookbooks, aspics were considered elegant, a sign that the hostess knew her way around a mold. And tomato aspic, with its bright color and bold flavor, was the star. Today, gelatin is reserved for desserts, but back then, tomato aspic was a side dish that turned vegetables into sculpture and reminded guests that food could be both beautiful and bold. Number 6. Baked cheese grits casserole. The southern side that stuck, it was golden, it was gooey. It was grit turned glorious, cheese grits, baked into a casserole with eggs, butter, and sharp cheddar, were a staple in southern cookbooks, served alongside ham, fried chicken, or even fish. The grits were cooked low and slow, then mixed with cheese and baked until the top crisped. It was rich, it was filling, and it was loved. Families passed down their own versions, some with garlic, some with jalapenos, some with bacon. But the heart of the dish was always the same: cornmeal, cheese, and care. Today, grits are often rushed, but baked cheese grits casserole was a side dish that demanded time and rewarded it with flavor. Number 7. Potato puff bake, the cloud that came from leftovers. It started with mashed potatoes, cold, leftover, waiting in the fridge. Add eggs, a splash of milk, a pinch of baking powder, and suddenly you had a puff, light, airy, and golden. Potato puff bake was the side dish that turned scraps into something special. It rose in the oven, forming a crust that gave way to softness. It was served with roasts, stews, or even on its own. In old cookbooks, it was listed under economical dishes, a reminder that creativity could turn leftovers into luxury. Today, we toss mashed potatoes, but back then they were the beginning of something beautiful. Number 8. Chili cheese rice squares, the bake sale's best-kept secret. It was spicy. It was cheesy. It was square. Chili cheese rice squares were made from cooked rice, mixed with shredded cheese, chopped chilies, and eggs, then baked until firm and cut into squares. They were served at potlucks, school lunches, and church dinners, easy to transport, easy to love. Old cookbooks called them rice bakes, and every family had their own twist. Some added corn, some added sausage. But the heart of the dish was always the same: rice, cheese, and heat. Today, rice is a side. But back then, it was the star. And chili cheese rice squares were proof that simple ingredients could shine. Number 9. 3-bean molded salad, the jellied jewel of the buffet table. It was colorful. It was cold. It was held together by gelatin. 3-bean molded salad combined green beans, wax beans, and kidney beans with vinegar, sugar, and gelatin, forming a salad that could be sliced. It was served at luncheons, bridal showers, and summer picnics, bright, tangy, and unforgettable. In old cookbooks, molded salads were a category unto themselves, and this one, with its mix of beans and bounce, was a favorite. Today, we serve beans warm, but back then, they were chilled, molded, and marveled at. Number 10. Buttered parsley potatoes, the side that whispered elegance. They weren't fancy, they weren't loaded with cheese or cream, but they were perfect. Boiled potatoes, peeled or not, tossed in melted butter and sprinkled with fresh parsley. That was it. But in old cookbooks, buttered parsley potatoes were a staple, a side dish that showed restraint, balance, and care. They were served with roast beef, baked chicken, or even meatloaf. They didn't compete. They complemented. The butter gave richness, the parsley gave color, and the potatoes gave comfort. In homes where ingredients were limited, this dish was a reminder that simplicity could still feel special. that even a humble spud, dressed with a little green and gold, could make a plate feel complete. Today, we chase complexity. But back then, buttered parsley potatoes were a quiet kind of elegance, the kind that didn't need to shout. The sides that stayed behind. These dishes didn't make it into modern menus. They didn't survive the rise of fast food, the fall of home cooking, or the flood of convenience. But they mattered. These dishes came from old cookbooks, but more importantly, they came from old hearts. From people who knew how to make something out of nothing, who knew that food wasn't just fuel. It was memory, culture, and love. Drop a comment. Which dish surprised you? Which one would you try? Do you remember any of these from your childhood? Like this video to honor the flavors that raised us. Subscribe to the America We Forget, where every bite tells a story worth preserving. Until next time, keep the butter warm, keep the parsley fresh, and remember, the best side dishes aren't just served, they're remembered.